we should turn it off and on again, off and on again, off and on again, off and on, off and on, off and on, off and on.
This is the end of Out of the Mud. Yeah.
So we don't have closure.
No, we don't have closure for any of this.
No. Quack, 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 quack.
Hello there, everybody in the Mosaic community. We are back with another season of Out of the Mud. I've got Everyman here, rescued him from the black hole. We somehow managed to survive that, just barely though, but we got a little something different for you this season. You might have noticed that we have some shorter videos talking about things going on with Mosaic that you really need to pay attention to. And those are the Minute in the Mud episodes. We'll be releasing those on a regular basis. And now the podcast is going to be more conversational in style. Everyman and I will talk about different events going on. We'll talk about stories from the burn, and we will have more people to interview. So, stay tuned. This is Out of the Mud Season 2.
Why keep things the same? Like, this is the Mosaic Experiment. We're about experimenting. That's what we're doing at the event. That's what burns are about. It's like you can't so easily build a big giant structure in your backyard. Certainly not in the 15 by 30 stamp size space that I have in my yard. But going to your local park, they're not going to let you do it. Going to your local playground, they're not going to let you do it. But you go to a regional burn event and it's encouraged. And often you're going to have a team of people working on that with you, building an art structure, building a theme camp.
Or you have a team of people trying to help when you just want to do it your damn self.
And some experiments fail. And I think those are the most interesting ones. Sometimes when they fail, people are like, well, this didn't turn into the thing that I wanted it to turn into, but there's another voice in that conversation that says, but it could turn into this other thing. You do have the pieces and parts for that. So people put their heads together and something really artistic and spontaneous happens. And when people look at it and assemble it, they think of ways to make that idea, the wrong idea that just got righted. Next year, we'll come back with a bigger team and make that more grandiose. Another thing you can't do in your backyard.
Yeah.
If you're an artist type, that's intimidating to people. I'm not a builder type. I'm not the kind of person that works with carpentry and machinery. But I am one who respects people that do. So is Burning Man for me? That's a popular question. A lot of people are intimidated by burns. There's definitely intimidated by Burning Man for a lot of, I think, good reasons, because for one, it's expensive. For another, it's in a prohibitive environment, the Black Rock Desert. For another, coming from this side of the country, it's a long ass expensive drive, not just the event and the ticket itself, but just getting stuff out there and bringing all you need to live out there for a week. So these regional events are generally, I don't know if there is one that is a week long.
I haven't heard of one yet, but yeah, like what you're saying, it's absolutely right, because you got to factor in, if you are bringing a large art piece or something to burn or just anything at all, theme camp stuff, you can't fly that stuff out there. You're going to drive that stuff out there. So you got to factor somebody from, like, say, Ohio or Michigan, you're going to be driving for a couple days to get out there. And then you've got the week-long experience and then a couple days at the very least to get back. So you're looking to take at least like 2.5 weeks out of your schedule.
Always did. It was within 2 weeks. So you'd like leave the Friday of, and you'd spend Friday night, because we'd be loading up all day Friday. So you'd spend Friday night, Saturday, Sunday getting there, and Monday you would arrive. and we slept in the vehicle as much as we could, going
Yeah.
over on the side of the road. That just was such a pain in the ass. I mean, yes, it was exciting driving across the country. Yes, it's beautiful looking at the country. It's exciting being on your way to what you know is one of the biggest, if not the biggest, Burning Man event in the world. I know Africa Burn is very large also. There's an Australian burn that's very large, but not like.
Or do they have that one in the outback so it kind of replicates Black Rock Desert?
Yes,
Nice.
uh, sort of, kind of. When
You
I
just
when I
have to
heard,
contend with more things that want to kill you in Australia.
yes, well, also in South Africa,
True.
I've heard nothing. I've heard it's a great event, but the commute there is just one of the worst you could imagine. Like coming from the city where your plane lands, you got to get a rental. And you got to expect that the tires on your vehicle are going to have to regularly be changed. And there are crews out there on the road all the way out to Africa Burn that help you do. It just sounds insane to me,
Yeah, and
because
I'm trying to think of like if you're coming from, the
the road is
States.
trying to kill you.
Yeah, you're coming from the States to go to Africa Burn. How would you get an art piece there? You'd have to like ship it on like a cargo freighter.
It's kind of how people do things for Burning Man proper. Like they get storage units and they get trucks that ship things out there, like a shipping container, effectively.
Hmm.
And then that shipping container gets delivered to Burning Man proper. So, on site at Black Rock Desert, that's how a lot of those real big, gigantic installations happen. And that's the first thing that I noticed about regional events is you don't see those as much. Like you do see them, you don't see them as much. And the people that go to Burning Man in Nevada say that's what they miss when they go to the regional events. They're looking for like the big, gigantic camps. They're looking for the 70,000 people city.
Yeah,
And
and like the art pieces come to mind too. Like one in particular, um, the semi trucks that were like curled around each other and balanced on top of each other. That one always pops
yeah,
into mind by large
yeah.
art pieces. And it's like you can't get that up the hill and reclaim.
I'm thinking of like a giant. It was a ancient pyramid of Giza size artwork of books, and it was a face. It was a big giant face, and if you walked around it, there were three faces
Hmm.
with different colors too of the books, and these are all books that were getting thrown away. Libraries were getting rid of them, and so they just collected and collected and collected and collected and looked at all these books to see what they had in common. And there were three primary colors on the spines, so they used those and figured, let's just make like three towers of three different colors. And then an artist got involved and said, you could make faces out of these. So big giant faces, and that's daytime art. It doesn't look like much at night. Somebody put a spotlight under it. You would think that would be the most badass, crazy thing you've ever seen in your life in the dark. And they just didn't light it up that way. Like you could see it, but it was really impressive in the daylight. You felt like you saw one of the greatest works of art that ever existed. You just were in so much awe that someone trucked that out there, took the time. What, 2 weeks tops? I don't think they let you in there that early, to build this fantastical piece of art. Maybe they trucked in some self-contained some completed pieces, and I don't know if it all got set on fire when the event ended, so they didn't have to take it home. I doubt. I think they
Ooh.
had to tear it down and take it back. But, like,
Yeah, you'd have a lot of glue and stuff in the spines on those. So
yeah, I don't think they let you. Certainly not these days. So I'm thinking back like 20 years ago,
okay.
just the stuff that blew my mind that I was seeing, just the sheer size and magnitude of that. So I often say to people, if you've never ever been there at all, it might be worth going there one time. But there are regional events that now replicate some of the bigness of the art there. Like I know Flipside has definitely had large art. Lakes of Fire has definitely had large art, maybe not as large as what you saw there in the Black Rock Desert, but
The
large enough.
Loveburn has some large art too. I recently saw a video of a performance art piece that was done at Loveburn this year, where they had one of those like water powered jet packs to go out on the water. and they were
Mhm.
doing like a poi, like fire spinning while they're on this water powered jetpack. And there's LED lights that are lighting up the water spray coming out from underneath of them. And they're
Ooh.
just scooting around, floating in midair, fire spinning at Loveburn. That would have been a hell of a thing to see. And I'm wondering if who all went to Loveburn this year that we know. Uh,
Oh, I know a handful of people, from Cleveland that go there every year, and they were posting pictures that looked incredible.
yeah, did
I
Cheese Pants go
thought
to
I
Loveburn?
thought she did.
I was
I
thinking that
thought
she did
Kira
too.
went.
Yeah.
She has gone. I don't know if she went this year, but I think she has.
Yeah, there were a few
It's
people that I know are on our team that went down there at
and there's a
least.
lot of Mosaic people that go there, and, like, the pictures that I saw were just mind-blowing. Like, it visually looked more impressive than, like the nighttime nightscape, like, that visually looked more impressive than some lakes events that I've gone to. But it also looks really compact. Like, it looks like a big group of people, tightly like, they try to get every single person they can to fit into that space, and it pays off with the artwork, but it does look I haven't
Looks
been there, so I
snug.
can't speak to it. It looks comparatively cramped, and I don't personally like those kinds of environments. I've been in them, and, the art is great, but you spend most of your time not staring at art at Burns. You do spend time looking at it, and it is impressive, and it is transformative, but you don't spend most of your time doing that. Not me. I spend most of my time talking to the artists.
What was your favorite part of Mosaic Experiment for 2022?
Mosaic Experiment 2022. And folks, we've tried this podcast before. We had this exact same conversation. We had the hardest time answering this part that Corvus just asked, because Corvus was an effigy builder and built the effigy and spent a large percent, the vast majority of their time setting that up and recovering from it.
Yeah, all day
Uh,
Saturday.
And as co-lead LLC of Mosaic Experiment, you are an organizer. And so you're responsible for a lot of things that are happening. And maybe not in necessarily a direct way, but a lot of things come to you. So a lot of the event, and it was never that bad. Things happen in a real good sequential order. One crisis went away and then another one arose, but they're not like horrible crises. They're just when you're in leadership, things happen. If you're a theme camp organizer and you're building your theme camp and you don't have enough stakes, that's a small crisis, right? Or if a windstorm happens and it blows one of your tarps off, that's another small crisis. Maybe someone has to do a town run. Maybe you have to walk around the event and find another tarp. Little things like that. So that on a larger scale for me. So for me, stepping away from that, I want to say, would be my greatest joy. Uh Watching the talent show for me and, watching you speak about your daughter,
Hmm.
was a highlight for me, and,
I appreciate you saying that. I
not
really
a
do.
not a happy
No,
it's a
no,
sad
there was
story,
a lot
folks.
of emotions involved in
It
that.
was to me, the best part about a burn is when you personally have a transformative experience, and if you hadn't had a transformative experience, maybe you burned wrong. Maybe, if no one else was giving you a transformative experience, maybe it's on you to create one for other people, is another way to look at it. But I feel like I've been to a Burning Man event when it happens to me, when I felt a transformative experience. That was a moment where it happened, where you shared a story that was deeply personal, but it was during the talent show, it's a talent show that's usually rather upbeat and positive, and this wasn't necessarily negative either. Like the theme of the effigy was letting go, and those kind of stories are going to happen. That was a deep personal story, and to watch you convey it, and to experience it with everybody who watched with me. For a moment there, I felt like we were all the same person. I felt very much in touch with humanity because you were talking about a very deep, powerful story of loss that all of us have some connection to. We have all experienced loss. And for a lot of people, that's what the temple burn is all about, is to go through those feelings. That's why it's rather controversial for burns to not have a temple burn, because people don't have that opportunity to let go. And the effigy itself, for a lot of folks, that's not when they want to do it, because that's more of a celebratory, I'm here with my friends vibe. But letting go doesn't have to be sad. Letting go can also be celebratory. And I noticed that I was getting that from your presentation of it, because you started off very upbeat, very happy.
Hmm.
Started off kind of the way that we start off this podcast. You even deferred to me at the start of it because I was there in the back of the crowd, and I thought, "Oh, are you going to call me up there? Was this something that you weren't telling me about?" But no, you had a thing planned, uh, and watching that contrast, going from one vibe to a different vibe, I thought the intention there wasn't to bring the room down, but to make the room understand that there is balance in life.
Yeah, there's
And
always the
we did it in
duality.
5 minutes.
And even when, you are being that happy-go-lucky person, when you are entertaining and everything, when you are having a good time, the losses and the traumas that we experience, they're always with us, but we don't necessarily have to hold on to the way they made us feel in the moment.
Mm.
If we feel those things in a natural process, we're able to let go of them. They'll always be a part of us, but they're not going to hold us back anymore.
Yeah, I recently heard a podcast, and I sadly can't think of the name of it. That was is one of those things where YouTube just picks channels for you when you're asleep, and I woke up and heard part of that conversation and went back to sleep. So maybe I dreamed it. They were talking about how religion tries to fix this for people by making you think, no, you're always going to see that person that you lost again. They're not gone. You'll be able to see them again. And they're like, so atheists don't have that. What do you have there? You grieve. What happens when you lose somebody? And the atheist responded, well, you grieve. And it's
Yeah.
really important to grieve. And yes, it's extremely painful to know I won't see this person again. I'd love to believe 100,000 things. I'd love to believe that I can. I don't know if I can't, but we do know that this person is gone, and there is a chance, a good chance, right? I'm never going to see them again, and that is the punch in the gut. That is grieving. When I lost my mother, it hit me. I'm never going to see her again, and I wanted to have other family members feel the optimism. Well, reunited with her family and reunited with them. Now their energies are traveling together, and some days ours will be a part of theirs. I'm trying to not bullshit and say some scientific truths. Energy is never destroyed, so you don't know.
Yeah.
Like those kinds of things. But and then the other side of me goes, why am I stopping them from grieving? There's something really important going on here. There's something, why am I stopping people from crying? Why am I not crying? I should cry. I lost my mother. It's sad. You lost your daughter. It's sad, especially in the manner in which it happened. And the duality, indeed. We're all at this Burning Man event. We're all here to, the way people look at it. You're partying with your friends. It's this, oh, what do they call it? It's kind of it's a derogatory, hedonistic, so, like, the media often paints Burning Man as a hedonistic event. They're like, "Well, there's sex and there's nudity and there's drugs out there." Well, the vast majority of the event is not nude. The vast majority of people at Burning Man are not taking drugs. The vast majority of people at Burning Man are not having sex. It's what the cameras capture. It's what exhibitionists who are radically self-expressing are comfortable showing you. That's not what the majority of it is. People are having sex in your city right now. People are taking drugs in your city right now. There are some people radically self-expressing in your city right now. It's just not out in the open. Uh, but it is a city, and in your city, people are dying every day, and in your city, there is sadness every day. So yes, we are going there to get together with our friends again, and with radical self-expression is an awesome outlet, and you want it to be a good time, and it really is. To me, it is mostly a good time, but there is sadness with it, and sometimes that weather can bring you sadness.
And another thing too is once you've had these transformative experiences, once you've been able to participate and radically self-express and have that feeling of being home, the big sadness is when you leave again, when you go back to the defaultia and then you have that decomp. And it's like all of this happened, but now it just feels like it was a dream until we go back the next year.
Especially when you're so invested in the event, and there's so much effort getting there, and there's so much effort involved in building something, like you were
Oh
there to
yeah.
build an
Uh,
effigy to let go of.
well, I mean
Uh,
that effigy build, it started in 2021 when we were going to be in person, but due to the newer variants of COVID-19, for the safety of the communities around us and then our community as well, we opted to go digital again. So
mm,
I had to hold
sure.
on to what I had started on, and it followed me from the house I was living in to the house I'm in now, and then I continued building on it. So this effigy was a part of my life. Getting it out there to the event, getting it set up. Originally, it was going to be in the form that everybody saw it on Saturday afternoon,
And
Saturday
every day
evening.
you're looking at it, every day you're still holding in that
Yeah.
certain memory.
And like because of the winds, like I had to come up with an idea so as not to have the effigy blow over before it was time to burn it. And that's why everybody saw that small pyramid with the light bulb in the middle. And then it started transforming the closer we got to that moment that it finally went off. And kind of how we touched on earlier, and you were saying, sometimes things don't go the way you plan, but then they
Oh,
go in a different way.
yeah.
That burn was supposed to be ignited by that exploding light bulb. Didn't happen, but the good thing that came out of it is that main structure stayed up for so long, and you got to see
Yeah.
every layer peel away from it, and it's exactly like
Yeah.
grieving. That is the process of letting go.
Mhm.
Little by little, you shed that pain, you shed that grief, you shed those emotions and process them, and finally, you come to a moment where it falls away, and that's what growth and healing is.
And, there is so much we weren't doing this, in-person Burning Man thing since 2019, so there's so much effort to just getting there, to arriving on site. It just felt like such an astronomical, colossal effort, magnanimous, to just get there on site and to just get that fucking yeah, to get the effigy built, to get people back to this again, to sell tickets again, uh, because we were, if we had to cancel this again, uh, we would have been done. I mean, I
Yeah.
talked with Dirk Honest about it, and if we had to cancel one more year, because of a pandemic, we were done. Like, financially, we would not be able to support it anymore. Putting this much effort into something that keeps almost happening and not happening was tearing us apart emotionally. We couldn't handle another year of that, and it just things calmed down enough where it was safe enough to come out of the woodwork and go out and play again. And to me, it was deeply emotional just to arrive on site like a dream because
Yeah.
I get there early, and to not see any cars there and to just see the land. And it was sunny. Uh, it was pretty. The grass was freshly mowed, and I was looking at the path going into Mosaic before I got to the gate. And I had a bit of an emotional experience there. I just got out of my car and got emotional. I wept for a bit because I didn't think it was going to happen, and I didn't think I was going to get there. After I dropped off my dogs, it was feeling within reach. I'm like, something horrible is going to happen before I get there, because that's just the way things have been going. And no, it happened.
And it was so interesting being there again after, 3 years. It felt like I never left. It felt like I had always been there, and,
It
like,
did
that
have
was the
that
thing
vibe.
that yeah, that was the thing that really got to me the most about going back, and
Felt like home.
yeah, exactly.
Friday was the talent show?
Friday was a talent show, yes.
Okay, 'cause I remember it being, uh,
It
as
was
warm as
clouded up really bad, it was threatening to rain, and, like, during the talent show, it cleared up right as
yes.
the sun was going down.
That was the other half of what I wanted to talk about, when you asked me what my favorite part of the burn was, and, my favorite part of Mosaic. There's a lot of good stuff that I could think
Mhm.
about, but, like, that was a highlight was, watching you, talk at the talent show, and after you did, the sun broke out, and it got less and less cloudy. I remember, Lost talked at the talent show next, or, like, the next after the next. Like, there were a few people. There's, like, 3 people in a row where the sun got brighter and brighter. It got increasingly warm, and it was flying in the face of what the actual weather forecast was that evening.
Yeah, talk about a transformative experience.
Yeah, I was emotionally moved by what I saw at the talent show, and the weather was, responding to it seemed. Like, it just felt that way, and I know that sometimes it's just coincidences can plant ideas in your head, but be that as it may, that's a hell of a light show. Uh, and it was really good timing, and it was the timing in which I needed it to happen. After you said if it got cloudier and rainier, I would have been really broken up that night. But the weather opened up, the sun came out, it got warmer, people started celebrating more, it started feeling more and more like a summer burn. It was odd because it was fucking cold, from Tuesday onward, like frigid, see your own breath cold, and it was about as warm as it ever got the whole entire week. That Friday, after the talent show, during the talent show, honestly.
Yeah.
I remember people starting to get the party was on Friday, and I was worried that it wasn't going to be. And that we do this for you people, we do this for the community, and I channel that shit so fucking hard. And when the weather gets really bad, I worry that everyone is having a bad time. I can't control it. We can't control the weather, and I wish we could, but we can't. Even though we promote this radical self-reliance, we want you to be able to party in spite of the weather, no matter what it is. I still wish it would be better for you. I still wish it could be 70 degrees, that perfect San Diego weather every day, 70 degrees and dry and sunny and gorgeous, so you could wear whatever you want all hours of the day, and that vibe was there for about 4 hours Friday night. Boy, did everybody take advantage,
Oh,
and
yeah.
when it got cloudy, they didn't give a fuck, and it got cloudier, and they didn't give a fuck, and people started drinking more, and then it got misty, and then it got rainy, and people drank enough at that point, uh,
Some really
it
interesting things happened, actually, my favorite moment of Mosaic last year
yeah,
happened Friday night when I believe it was it the French bread pizzas were being made, um, and there was a few people sitting around, our new ranger lead was involved, Kira, or Cheese Pants, you might have, ran into her there at the burn, and we had showmen there as well, some carts involved, and there are some really, really passionate burners that came up and they began singing. All of them began singing Tub Thumping by Chumbawamba, which, if you've spent any time with the Mosaic organizers or in the Mosaic community, you would know that
yes,
that's a good theme song for our event.
it
Because
appears to be.
you may get knocked down, but you will certainly get back up again.
It's let's just call it a love-hate thing.
Yeah. Like the
It's a love
weather.
It's like the weather, I suppose. It's a love-hate thing. It's a song that gets played and played and played, and then, thank you, Showman, for introducing that to a summer retreat many years ago, and playing it and playing it and playing it, and then going to another song and making us think it's over with, and then going back to that song again. and that just became such a famous troll. It became the Rickroll of Mosaic. But yeah, your favorite Mosaic experiment. That was a good question. Like, what your favorite moment was there? The Chumbawamba one was good.
Yeah.
But I'm thinking that goes back to my introduction to you at Scorched when you were doing the oh, what was it? The
Uh,
safari?
yeah, I believe it was last camp had set up. They had a cutout of a Jeep, and they had a loudspeaker that they were dragging around with a microphone, and they were doing tours of Reclaim, tours of Scorched Nuts.
Yeah, it sounded like your average cheesy, if you live in a big city, it sounded like a double decker driving by your house and someone's got a loudspeaker talking about what's in the neighborhood. This is the Andy Warhol Museum.
Yeah, that was Sunday morning, shit show Sunday at Scorched Nuts. I'm sitting
Sunday
there.
Funday.
Yeah, I'm sitting there with Eden and the rest of my camp. It was Camp Liminal at the time. And I noticed this thing and I asked them, I'm like, What do you mean you go on safaris?" And they're like, "Yeah, you can go on safaris. We're probably not going to do it anymore. We did a few of them earlier." And I said, "Well, let's do one now." And the loudspeaker was provided, which that blew me away that they had that because I hadn't seen the safari going on.
That blew
And
me away because I thought I hallucinated that. I didn't think that I thought you were pretending there was a loudspeaker, but there really was one.
Yeah, there was a loudspeaker.
Okay.
I had the microphone, and somebody else was dragging it. It had wheels, so they were dragging that behind us, and a few people were holding on to the cutout of the Jeep, the little safari Jeep, and I had them all going blah 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 for the sound of the engine, of course. And so I was walking through the burn, doing a David Attenborough voice, and we kept getting more and more people
Yeah,
on
you
this
were.
safari tour. And that's when we ran into you, everyman.
Yeah. I was waiting at a theme camp that was serving microbrewed beer.
Yeah.
And they said they had a sign up front about the bus tour, the tour bus, the brew bus, and that made me think. I hadn't been to Scorched Nuts in 2 years up to that point. God, that's a long time ago. I can't even remember like there were because it's Memorial Day weekend, but there were a couple of years I just couldn't have done it. But I was making it every year up to that point because it was Ohio's Burning Man event. And I couldn't make it for a couple of years, and I finally was able to do it, and I found these Ohio people, with a microbrew. They had their own beer tap, and they had a sign talking about a beer tour, and I thought a beer tour was coming by, and that's what I thought you were. And no other tour bus, like a tour bus, and they just wrote that on the sign, and they didn't mean it. And they were jokey and they were being Burning Man people, and I'm just like thinking it's real, and they're acting like it's real. And like, when's that bus gonna come? I'm like, well, real soon now. And they kept giving me more and more drinks, and I'm sitting there at their camp drinking the beer, getting to know these, Northern Ohio people, which is great. I ended up becoming good friends with them. But I'm waiting for an actual. I think there's an actual bus. I'm believing this. I'm believing there's going to be a bus or there's going to be a group of people saying we were a part of the tour. You're going to join us and go to the other places. Like we're bar hopping essentially. And that never happened. But then you showed up and that's what I thought it was. And I said something and you ignored me and kept talking to your troop. And then Trisket spoke up and was like trying to troll you, and you looked back at your crew and said, pay no attention to the burner, don't communicate, don't speak to the burners.
No, it was a
Like it's
do
kind of
not
don't touch the
look.
monkeys,
Yeah, do not
don't
look
touch the.
the burners directly in the eye, or it will further agitate them.
Yeah, that broke up Trisket. That broke up me. I remember. I remember you saying it.
Because as soon as I said that, like, I just kept going.
Just don't talk to the burners was what was my memory of it. Like, don't communicate with them. It just reminded me of like zoo tours. Don't touch the tigers. Don't stick your hands outside the windows. You're
And the
gonna get
entire
bit.
tour was like that because I saw some people in some costumes, like, one was just, like, all glistening gold and everything, and I had made comment on the fantastic plumage that this burner, was displaying. So the entire tour was like that. You 2 just kinda got caught up in it.
No, it was great. It's the kind of thing that I'm accustomed to seeing at Burns, and I just wish I would see more of. And that was one of those things that I pointed to that year. That was one of my highlights. When somebody is doing something artistically creative, and it doesn't necessarily have to be a large, intimidating structure that you have to invest 1,000 hours in and $10,000 in order to build, you can impress upon people in a great way with performance art,
Yeah,
and it doesn't have to be expensive.
and a
It
lot of
just has
that
to be
comes
radically
from
self-expressive.
exactly, and a lot of it comes out of immediacy too. Um,
Now,
that's one thing that I'd like to touch on is, a lot of people have
please,
preconceived notions about what Burning Man should be. And, that's what I originally thought until some of
should
my
be.
friends took me to the Cincinnati Museum Center and showed me what Burning Man was and convinced me to go to Scorched Nuts. And then later told me about Mosaic, and I, of course, signed up right away, got a ticket right away. But for me, the burns are a chance to just be human. That radical self
Mm.
expression, that immediacy, that opportunity to just play, to have fun, to be yourself, to feel accepted. I mean, that's Burning Man for me.
I wanna say it's an opportunity to be a kid again, but we're an all ages event, so it's really an opportunity for the kids and the adults to be again.
Yeah.
This is why we do this. This is the most important thing to me as a person. Uh, I invest a lot of personal, and emotional energy and time into organizing these events because of the feedback that we get when the events are over, and the stories that people are telling and the things that people are doing afterwards, things they didn't think they could do until they went to Mosaic and tried them, experimented with them, and it worked. And now they feel compelled to do it again and do it bigger and do it greater. There's a power to a blank canvas. There's a
Hmm.
power to saying, uh, any drawing implement that you want to use is okay. There's a power to somebody telling you you can go outside the lines, but if just make something, do something. If you have an idea that you wanted to try, come here and work with people, work with the community and try it out. Sometimes you can't do it yourself. Sometimes an artistic idea is too daunting. And that's what Burning Man in the Black Rock Desert did to me. It intimidated me. It made me feel like I could never do anything that big. I love looking at it. I love basking in it. I love talking to these artists and learning from them. But I never felt like I could ever do anything that big. So why bother? But I mentioned at the beginning of this podcast, it's the I spent very little time looking at the big art. I remember the big art. I spent very little time looking at it. I spent the vast majority of my time communicating with the community, the people that were there, and connecting to those artists who felt that that kind of art, that radical self-expression, that radical inclusivity, that radical self-reliance was important. That's a big part of it, that radical self-reliance of I am trying to do this myself. I am trying to do as much as I can. I'm not paying for an experience. I am creating the experience. And you can do that at a regional burn as much as you can do in the Black Rock Desert. There's nothing stopping you from doing it. And if you didn't see what you wanted to see at a regional burning event, man event, you can create that. We are the outlet for that.
We'd like to like to hear some experiences from everybody in the community about how the burn was for you. So if you want to write to us, if you're watching this, there was a few people that pulled me aside saying they watched every episode we did last season.
Same
So
here.
send us an email at promotions at mosaicexperiment.com. Uh, you know, tell us your stories. Let us know what you want to see more of and everything.
We'll read them if you want us to, because
Definitely.
we'd love to have the feedback. That's the problem is we want to talk about, what was our favorite part in Mosaic, but it's we didn't get to see Mosaic the same way a lot of participants get to see it. When you're organizing an
Exactly.
event, you're on the other side of things.
Well, we are looking forward to what you, the community, bring to the experiment this year. And we'll be at you with more Out of the Mud as the season progresses and the burn is being built. And also make sure to check out our Minute in the Mud videos that will give you that nitty gritty on what's going on and what you need to know. But until next time,
Cheers.